Hello and welcome to this week's bike show. We are, in fact, coming to you as always from Rim and Rubber, but I thought I'd start this week's show with this monster. This is the world's best Ducati custom job. And just don't take my word for it, this is the best because Ducati themselves say that this is the best. I've only ridden it a little short while, but I tell you what, I'm not about to disagree with them.
Riding around town is not really this bike's idea of a good time. Which isn't that surprising when you consider that its heart and soul comes from one of Ducati's most extreme sport bikes. I can read, so I know the big V-twin underneath me is straight out of an 1199R Panigale, and the bike is called Cafe Espresso. Given the shot of adrenaline produced by the standard 202 horsepower in the Panigale R, the name seems quite appropriate somehow. It is undoubtedly a fantastic looking machine that combines a kind of brooding, modern brutishness with a hint of gentlemanly yesteryear. A tailored thug, if you will, a bouncer with panache. This is beastly levels of quality, clever engineering, and a degree of subtlety that suggests standard factory issue. But it hasn't come out of a factory. It was born here in South Africa and has since travelled back to its roots in Italy, where it has won the respect and admiration of the men who built the bike from which it was created. It is an international superstar now, and we're very grateful that it has consented to make an appearance here this evening on the Bike Show.
Well, we are indeed very grateful. Look at it, isn't she absolutely beautiful? And to explain the whole story behind this bike, I have with me Brad McCready, who is the owner of the bike, and Dave Frizzoli, who I have just nicknamed Dave the Builder. Doesn't sound very exotic, but it does describe the man to a T. I'm going to start with you, Brad. I mentioned there that it's been back to Italy. What was going on there? Why did you take it to Italy?
Well, it's actually a funny story. A mate of mine phoned me after I got the bike and he said, it's World Ducati Week. We should enter it into the garage competition. And I said to him, look, bud, you're welcome to, but you do it. And he got his lovely wife, which was 9 months pregnant at that stage, and they fetched the bike and they took pictures of it. And 3 weeks before the competition, we got an email to say we'd been shortlisted in the top 10. So, yeah, all credit to Dave on that. I mean, I honestly didn't think we would do that well.
So you sat around for a couple of days. I mean, there's big numbers go to World Ducati Week. 70, 80,000 or something over the course of the weekend. Did it draw a lot of attention from the public?
It did. I think a lot of folks looked at it and wasn't quite sure what to make of it because it's got the big wheels, it's really out there, and it's not your typical cafe racer as such.
So basically you had a load of Ducati's project leaders and designers and engineers coming around and they said, that's the bike for us.
Yes, and we were very fortunate.
That is an amazing. It must please you, Dave, the end, because those guys are looking not just at the pretty, but at the underlying engineering.
Well, that's what we realised. Spending those few days there, watching the public's opinion on what the flashy bling bikes was what they were going for more. But when the Ducati design guys came out, you could see they were looking with intent, looking at the design, the construction, the engineering, what we had done, and could appreciate the work we achieved.
Well, I've ridden a few of your bikes over the years, Dave. I have to say, you know I'm a fan. What signifies your bike, certainly recently, Dave, is the fact that you like to put these monster wheels in the things. It doesn't matter if it's a cruiser or a sport bike. It seems to have become your signature in a way.
I think the only thing I can think of is I'm a Dutchman. I come from South Africa. I like big fat wheels and loud cross. No, I just think I like the look of it. It gives it a very chunky, stocky look. And the idea of the big front wheel is not just for show. I like the look of it. It's to make the bike work. This big rear wheel, skinny front wheel thing doesn't work.
It doesn't work,
You've ridden
I can testify
bike,
to that. Yeah, I mean, the factory XDR Valais is a perfect example. Massive, actually the same size rear tyre as this, skinny front. And when they turn, they tend to sort of feel like the front and rear is turning at a different rate. They've got a bit of a hinge in the middle. It just doesn't work. But your idea of sort of matching a bigger, that's actually a rear front, isn't it, really?
Rear, yeah.
So
it's to keep the geometry the same. The offset between front and rear is exactly the same as the Superbike. The geometry of this bike is identical to the original bike. It just has wider wheels.
I tell you what, there's a lot of details that I particularly like on it, but you said, I've got to mention the headlight. You pointed this out to me. That isn't just a beautiful headlight. Explain what's going on there. You've got another reason going on.
Well, the one thing that was a problem with the Panigale to take the fairing and the ram air away from it was, what do you do with this big hole in the frame behind the headlight? So we manufactured a carbon fiber component that bolts to the frame that looks like a headlight, but it's actually the ram air. The light is smaller than the actual
So as you can
housing.
see, the space that goes around the light, between the light and the housing,
is the ram air. Yeah.
is the ram air. That's the kind of detail I love. What else? I mean, you've obviously spent, I dread to think, a couple of thousand man-hours or something on this thing.
These bikes take in the region of about 500 hours.
500 hours,
Yeah,
okay.
to put together.
What else? I mean, you must have come across problems along the way. What else are you particularly chuffed with?
The other thing I really like is the exhaust system. A lot of the other guys have the easy thing to do is to take twin pipes up at the back or something to take the exhaust away from where the Panigale's exhaust was designed to be. I wanted to keep the exhaust there, have a retro look, so a megaphone style pipe, but then also one thing we learned from all our racing is that the stock Panigale exhaust system is rubbish. It doesn't work. You've got this big flat hole in the middle, and we designed our own exhaust system. You can see the headers are quite different, and where it collects is quite different. And we beefed it up by 25 Newton meters and 20 horsepower in the mid-range, just by the shape of the exhaust. So that is to do it that tight with those big 63 millimeter headers was quite a feat. So that I'm very chuffed with.
Brad, you've had it for a while now. I mean, you must be chuffed with the result from Italy. Have you done much riding on it yet?
I have. I ride it regularly. A lot of guys say I should be parking it in the pub and use it as a display piece. But I bought it to ride it, and we're enjoying it. And, you know, there's not many bikes you can ride and makes you feel like $1 million.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Effectively, that does it for me.
Are you going to get any more work out of him? I mean, you look like a man who can't stop, and he's got ideas, you've got ideas. Are you working on the next project?
I think we'll do something.
I think it'll be a terrible waste of talent if we don't.
I agree. Yeah.
So the next WDW is in 2 years' time. So I think at least we should think of something.
I like your style.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a deadline next year.
Yeah. Okay.
I tell you what, if you get a bike ready, the bike show will come over you. It's about time we went back to Misano.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. I think a final round of applause for a true work of art.
Thank you. Well done, my man.